Okay, good morning. Nice day in Hawaii. I'm going to resume what we were talking about, my life, throughout my life. Anyway, I'd like to talk about the members that we took basic together. Uh, I guess, every one of us went over to Korea, and within the first 2 to 3 months, within our group, 5 of them were killed in action, 9 were wounded, one was a POW, and one became a MIA, KIA. So that's probably almost a third of the people that went over together with us that were casualties at the first 2 or 3 months. But eventually, I don't know how many ended up, eventually getting killed in action because, I left there after my year. So, but anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. I also want to talk about this person. I'm not going to mention his name, but it's a very important thing to bring up. As you karate people know, that on my wall at the Springfield studio, we have some words on the wall, tenets about the martial arts that I put up. And one of the words up on the wall was to persevere. And we had this one person in our basic training that always had problems persevering. He would always kind of give up just before the end. And during basic, whenever there is a problem within the platoon, everybody suffers. So what we try to do is make sure that no one got no one got in trouble, even if we have to help them out. So this guy, when we used to go on those full field marches, with all our pack and equipment, we'd go from Schofield to Haleiwa, forced marches, and he would drop back and he can't make it. He would complain and et cetera, et cetera. So some of us would have to go back, carry his load, carry his rifle, and drag him along so that we would complete our full field march. If we didn't, then we would be, at the end of the march, we would be in for trouble. So this guy did that throughout the whole basic training. He just barely graduated from basic, but we kept telling him that if he doesn't get his act together when he gets to Korea, he's going to get captured. So when we got to Korea, him and my other buddy, I can give his name because he's still alive, Billy Cow, were with the 5th Regimental Combat Team. And this, I don't know when it was still during the winter. Remember, we got there in November. So both of them were sent out on an LP. LP is a listening post where you go about 100, maybe 200 meters in the front of the front line just to listen and look and see if you can locate any enemy activity or any movement. Then you report back to the front line what's going on. So as soon as they got to their position, they got a call from their company, their platoon, informing them that to get out of there right away, the Chinese were attacking. So Billy Cow unhooked the radio and started, and the order was, "You're on your own." So he unhooked and started heading back towards the front line, and everybody was on their own. Him and the other guy. So he kept moving back towards the front line, not paying attention to his rear, thinking that the other guy was right behind him. Eventually, when they got to their own friendly front lines, one of the guys asked him, "Where is this other guy?" Like I said, I'm not going to mention his name. "Oh, see, I thought he was right behind me," but he wasn't. So from that day forward, we assumed that he was a MIA. So we registered him as a MIA as of November 1950. And what is so funny, through all those years, 40, 50 years, we classified him as a MIA throughout all those years. Anyway, I lived in Virginia. So in July 27th, 1995, they dedicated the Korean War Memorial, and all the Korean veterans were invited to attend. And I was there and attended the ceremony. And after the ceremony, there were 3 large squad tents that were set up on the mall. And one was for all the information on POWs. And then another one was on information on all killed in action, KIAs. And then there was another tent for the MIAs, missing in action. As you know, during the Korean War, there was 8,100 MIAs, for some of you that didn't know about it. At the end of the war, there was still over 8,000 missing in action. But anyway, I went to the MIA tent, and the sergeant helped me, and he said, you know, I can't find anything with this guy's name on it. So I said, I'm sure he was there. You know, he was missing in December of 1950. He said, well, you know, I'm sorry, I looked all the way back. So he told me, why don't you go to the KIA and see his name might be on that list. So the KIA tent was right next, so I went there, and sure enough, he was killed in action. He died January of 51. But anyway, all those years, we thought he was a MIA. So when I came back to Hawaii in 2002, right away the military had me check in at the hospital for a physical, for psychological checkup, a physical checkup and everything. And I ended up seeing a doctor down at downtown Honolulu for psychologists. Anyway, I had to see this guy, PTSD. At that time it was combat fatigue. Something is what they called it. Anyway, it was what is known now as PTSD. So he was my counselor. So I was with him for about 4 months. When I came home, I found out there were a lot of things wrong with me physically that I didn't know. I didn't really pay attention to it. You know, it ended up I had a high percentage of PTSD. I lost 30% of my hearing. I had tinnitus in my ears. I had a cold weather injury on my foot from the Korean year 1950. So there were a lot of things that were wrong with me that I didn't normally pay attention, because all I thought about was going to work and teaching karate. But anyway, so this counselor told me to see if I can set up an appointment to go to the VA up at Tripler, because there was a group up there of Korean veterans and World War II mixed together. And he said, you might know some people up there that's in the group. And you know me, I didn't want to go, typical stubborn. Then finally I said, okay, I'll go. He said, you might know some people in there. So I said I got set up for an appointment for counseling for the group. And sure enough, I walked in and I knew about 4 of them right away. And one of them was this guy, Billy Cow. But you know, after 40, 50 years, you don't recognize, I haven't seen this guy since 1950, and this was 2004. So you know, you changed in 54 years. So I barely recognized, but it was him, because you know, he gained weight, and you know, I changed and everything too. You know, and basically I was a slim 140. So, but I asked him, I said, you know, are you Billy Cow? He said, yeah. And then he asked me, he said, you Roberts? I said, yeah. And then we started hugging and feeling close together because of what we went through and all of this. And then it's so funny. That day we all, you know, said a story about what happened, and then he talked about this going out on the LP in the front of his company with this guy. And when he came back to the front lines, he didn't know what happened to his buddy that was with him. And I said, you're not serious, right? Well, I know the name, but I'm not going to mention it. I told him, well, you know what? I said, your friend got captured in December. He went to a prison camp. He was captured in December, and he went to a POW camp in North Korea in January, and he died there at the I was going to say rest camp, and he died at the POW camp. And Billy was, that was the closure for him because he didn't know what happened to his friend. But we told him, you got to give everything you got when you're training, because your training will transform when you're there. I believe, more sweat on the training field, less blood on the battlefield. It's the same thing. You gotta, especially if you know you're going to go to combat. It's your life is involved in this. You can't afford to be lax in things that you do, because like NFL players, I tell them, because of their flag situation, that you can lose a game and still play. In the military, if you lose the game, you can't play again. That's the end of you. So you've got to persevere, and he didn't, and that cost him his life. So that was the end closure for my friend Billy. And of course, that group started off as a huge group, and then now we're dwindled down to there's only about 4 of us left now. But anyway, I wanted to bring that story in because it's very important when you're teaching, especially in karate and the martial arts, that you got to persevere. Even if you don't make your white belt, you don't make your yellow belt, you keep trying. You get knocked down, you get up. Unless you just don't want to get up, then you're going to lose. If you keep getting up, you'll win. If you keep getting up, you'll win. Even Manny Pacquiao got knocked down, he got up and he won. So you got to learn how to persevere. So just let me stop now for a while. Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm going to give you another short story of something that really happened. It was funny. We're in a rice paddy once. We're going to attack this village, and our squad leader telling us that we can fix bayonets and all that. But when you hear all the bullets flying around, you change your mind real quick. So we waited in the paddy until one of our tanks came up and gave us some support. So once he gave us some support, then then we can move forward because we got some heavy guns backing us up. So this time, then we did have some cover, being the tanks and other support vehicles, machine guns, etc., etc. Then we started to attack the village. Well, the funny part about this is I was trying to hide behind the bullets were flying. I was trying to hide behind a kimchi crock, and that was so crazy because I was thinking the kimchi crock would save me, and one of the bullets hit the kimchi crock, and split it right in two, and that was like a comical event. You should have seen my face when that happened, and I just I was just trying to get deeper into, almost dug a foxhole with my body. But that was one of the funny things. But we did take that village, and it was one of the funny things that happened that we can look back and laugh about. Okay.